Hey, Mark here. I just want to give you a quick heads up. We had some technical difficulties on this episode, so the sound may sound a little off. However, this episode with Adam and I about Aquaman is loaded with some of the best bits in MFF history. We talk about Jason Statham being forgotten in a submarine. We have some really interesting discussions about sea beasts killing thousands of people. It's a lot of fun. There's some great stuff to find in here. Just be patient with some of the audio because we had those technical issues. But if you can stick it through, you're going to love every second of this. It's hilarious, and it's one of my favorites. All right, enjoy, and I'll see you soon. Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who is currently riding a 2.5-kilometer giant kraken. It's Adam Hodgins.
You know, when you come to do movies, films, and flicks, you gotta ride in style.
Yeah. I mean, we've had people on jet skis before, we've had people up on K2, and now you've conquered them all, Adam.
Well, yeah, but only within the seven seas. I can't take my kraken, up to K2, but I can climb underwater mountains twice as big. So who's really the winning here, actually?
Who can go further up? Who can go further down?
Right. You know, it's crazy, Mark, if you think about it for a second, that on Everest, people have tried to climb it and then just died there and stayed there. There's just frozen bodies halfway up the mountain.
Yep. No one's picking them up.
No, but they're used as like way markers now. When you get to the guy in the orange coat, you made it halfway. That's
There's Rick.
Yeah, it's just a crazy phenomenon that people would be like, yeah, let's go climb it. I know people have died and just stopped, just frozen to the mountain.
They don't move.
Yeah, let's try. That sounds like a good idea to try.
Don't learn from them.
No.
Don't make their mistakes. Wait, we're up here. Yeah. It's pretty, but you know what, man? You and I, we dove down to Atlantis and we did a ton of research with the people down there for this podcast. So are we just as crazy?
No, I think we're blessed.
Well, James Cameron took us down.
Yeah, he took us down in the submarine, the little sub.
The Abyss.
The Abyss. And then while we were going down there, we actually helped out Jason Statham, who was stuck in the sub from the Meg.
Yep. Can you believe he's been down there for 2 years now?
Yeah, they had to do some reshoots and they just forgot about him. He was not impressed.
And you know what? They just digitally, all of Luke's and Hobbs and Shaw, he was digital.
Yeah, 100%.
And then they went down there and they recorded his ADR.
Yeah, and that's why in Hobbs and Shaw he sounds a little tinny because he's in a submarine for all of that dialogue.
And then they forgot him again.
They got what they needed and they were out.
Statham, there's just something wrong with your voice, man. It sounds really tinny.
That's really tinny. Because I'm in a sub.
Oh man! So I was reading a lot of the research for this because there's over 2,000 shots in this film. All the hair's digital, everything's digital in this movie.
Yeah.
They did not go to, believe it or not, they did not go to Atlantis to film this.
None of it was filmed underwater.
They didn't even go to the resort to shoot this.
Nope. They didn't even go to the pool.
Yeah, no pool. None of that. They shot mostly in Australia, then they shot plates kind of around the country.
Yeah, but remember in Titanic when James Cameron had that huge pool?
Yeah, in Mexico.
Yeah, and people were just freezing in the pool, getting hypothermia and stuff, filming that movie.
Mm-hmm.
None of that happened in this movie.
Everyone learned from Titanic and Waterworld. Crawl, $13 million budget. They shot it inside a studio in Siberia with heated water.
Yes.
We need movies like Waterworld and Titanic to not make movies like those movies.
Full transparency, I kind of love Waterworld.
Oh, listen, you see the budget. That budget, they built that atoll, then they dragged it out to sea, and they shot around it, and there were no bathrooms, so they had to take people back. They used all the steel in Hawaii. The steel industry was booming because of that movie.
It's kind of especially for a guy who loves the post-apocalyptic genre, and when it came out, I was in grade 8. So it was Mad Max on water, and I was it was just and at that point in time, I was this is as close to Aquaman as I'm going to get.
Yeah, you're right. You know what it didn't need though? You know what there could have been less of in this movie? In Waterworld. Jet
No, I don't.
skis. Why are there's monsters out there, and they're on little jet skis. They'll be eaten.
Yeah, but there's something that's like jet skis were like a thing that I first saw on a movie set, like on a movie.
Yeah.
Right? It's like almost one of those things in like the early 80s that was like unattainable, but you heard about people that had them. And so it was like kind of this like movie only thing. And then it's kind of like drones, right? Remember we first saw drones like in a movie?
Yeah.
And then now they're everywhere. But there was like this niche thing. So I think jet skis were a thing for a while, whereas like it's just a cool, inexpensive hop to have in a movie.
But they were slower than the boat. Kevin Costner outran them. And in the end, they drive straight into each other.
Yeah, no, the guys on the jet skis weren't bright.
They weren't. Wasn't there 4 of them and they all drove into each other?
Yeah, it's that classic, like, you know, I'm going to think in 2 dimensions while I'm fighting in a 3-dimensional world.
Can we go back to Jason Statham and the submarine sounding tinny? Because I think you and I have been doing this for well over a year. And I think that's one of your top 3 bits.
Well, I appreciate that.
I mean, we've had some great bits in this show. If you go back and listen to all of our episodes, we've had some legit bits.
We've gone on some like tangents for a long time.
We could do a best of episode, and we would just call it the bit hour.
Right.
You know, chew off a bit.
Little bit of a podcast.
Yeah. I wish I had that octopus who plays drums going ba-boom for me.
Right. And they did it, man. Okay, so
I just want to say something real quick, where my train of thought was going. The digital artist, he measured that Kraken, that Aquaman destroys probably 27,000 people times 50,000 people. He said at the end of the day, we measured it, that thing was 2.5 kilometers.
Yeah, because Aquaman's that awesome.
He comes out of the sea and he destroys those poor crab brine. Those crabs, lobsters, shrimp, whatever they were being attacked. Their territory was being attacked by Orm and the armies that he brought with him. Instead of Aquaman defending them, he comes from the earth on a 2.5 kilometer monster and wipes probably 73% of all the brine creatures out. So they started off the day going, we're going to have a battle with this Orm. We're going to battle him, P-Dubs, Patrick Wilson. They're like, we're going to take him out. And a sea kraken comes out from below them. That's a bad day for the brine.
No, it's not a great day, but here's the thing, man.
Would you say it's a grind in the brine?
I wouldn't say that, but I'd support you saying it. Here's the thing. War has collateral damage. So they chose to go into war, and this is what happens.
Wait, did they choose to go into war? Because they were being attacked.
Yeah, but I think they were like, bow to us, right? Like, submit to us. And they're like, no, the brine will never, like, bow to you.
Well, that brine guy was about to be killed. And then P-Dubs was going to take their army. And then Aquaman, and so they were about to have a truce right then and there. Aquaman interrupts it and just kills all of them.
Aquaman was pretty BA in this movie. So I am a long time like Aquaman fan. Like, even back in like the 80s when he was like the lame guy with the drum playing octopus and like he wasn't the upper tier. Like I was still like Aquaman's the way. Like I loved Aquaman. Always did. And so again, when Waterworld came out, I was like, this is as close as we're going to get to an Aquaman movie. And that's like kind of why I loved it. And then when you heard that there was going to be a Justice League movie and an Aquaman movie, you're like, oh, because DC, they missed the mark on a lot. Like when Green Lantern came out, it was like, it's a chore to watch that movie. Yeah. Right? And like the first time I met you, I was wearing a Green Lantern outfit. Yeah. So like,
we took pictures. It was you, John Cross, and me, and I showed a fist and I had a nice flannel on, and you and John put out your Green Lantern rings.
Right. So I'm like a big Green Lantern fan, but that movie is a chore to watch. Like it is not a fun watch. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's maybe, so DC oftentimes like just swings and misses. So, and here's the thing, and I think I've said this before, but like Jonah Hex, that movie, which was just, it had all the ingredients. It just left it on the pot too long and it just didn't work.
Stuck to the bottom.
Yeah, but I'm sad because we're not going to get another Jonah Hex movie. Like, they had their chance. It's not like Superman or Batman. We're like, well, there's always money here. They were like, hey, can we make a Jonah Hex movie? And Warner Brothers said, okay, we'll roll the dice here because comic book movies are huge right now. and it just missed the mark, and that will be the last Jonah Hex movie we ever get. 100%. So when they're doing the Justice League thing to try to catch up with Avengers, and Aquaman's going to get a solo movie, and then you saw Dawn of Justice, and you saw how like rough that was to watch. Like that was pretty brutes. And then Suicide Squad with its problems, and you're like, and even Justice League when it came out, and you're like, what is actually going on with these movies? And then you're like, Wonder Woman was excellent, but you're like, is that the exception? And you're like, is Aquaman going to be an unwatchable movie? Are they going to take the thing I love and just kind of destroy it so it just goes away forever? But this movie I had more fun watching this movie in the theater than I've had in the theater since I can remember. Like I was cheering Aquaman on in the theater in this movie.
Can I ask you a question?
You can ask me any question you want, Mark.
Now, do you love this movie so much that when people have comments that are against it, you go into a blind rage? Or do you know it's just a bombastic, borderline insane, big budget movie that is kind of beautiful?
Yes, that's exactly what I look at it as. And here's what I said to my friend Steve while we were in the theater watching. I was there with my kids and they were loving it because it's fantastic. But there's the opening scene where there's this love story between, Aquaman's parents, and that's kind of beautiful. And there's a great action sequence when
she eats his fish, and she destroys his TV, and then he's like, "Hey, it's cool."
Yeah, but even in those moments, like she eats his fish so he can quote a movie he was in 1994. Yeah. Right, and then she throws a spear to the TV, but there's an old TV show called Stingray on the TV. So it's like a reference. It's mint. But there's this sweet action sequence where she's like fighting all those guards with her trident. Like that was so good. And then we cut to like Aquaman fighting these eco-terrorists on the submarine. And granted, he leaves them there to die.
Let the ocean, talk to the ocean.
Right. But after that sequence is done, like he lifts out of the water and he's just like, and it establishes him in that first 5 minutes. It establishes him as like a Superman level hero. He's like bulletproof and he's like sword proof and he's not just a guy who talks to fish. He's a legit superhero. And so that the sequence ends where like he saves that sailor and then Black Manta's dad dies and Aquaman like jumps into the water. And I turned to my friend Steve and I just said, they could roll the credits right now and I would have got my money's worth. That's all I wanted to see was just like establish Aquaman as a legit hero. And so the rest of the movie has its problems, but I don't care because the first 10 minutes is my money. I'm like, that's all I care about.
I listened to that CinemaSins, Everything Wrong with It, and it's 21 minutes long. Ooh. And while I get what they're saying, I think CinemaSins works when you don't like the movie and they're hating on it, and you're like, yeah. But with Aquaman, I almost feel like it's almost too self-aware and too knowingly destructive and dumb to pick at a lot. Like, yeah. So you and I'm writing this article right now, and it should be on the Movies, Films, and Flicks site by the time this gets released. But I wrote an article about how there's a scene in this movie where King Orm sends massive tidal waves all over the Pacific, and some reach the Pacific and kind of the Asian countries, right? Right. There's a tidal wave that hits Maine that killed thousands, right? Took boats onto shore, destroyed warcraft. I mean, I counted, there's like 50 warships destroyed. And in the world, there's 4,500 warships, which means, carriers are in the billions of dollars. Submarines are in the billions of dollars. Then you have power grids. Then you have flooding. Then you have death. Then you have all the boats in the marinas. And then you have the sea life, the baby turtles, the roads. I mean, so I did the math, and there's trillions of dollars in damage, right? Trillions. Right. Not like, yeah, right, Mark. We're talking a worldwide strike of tidal waves that wiped out. And also, I looked up a chart of all the boats that are going around the world, tankers, the ones with all the storage boats, like the ones taking the, the big containers around the world. Yep. They would have been in the way. So we're just talking trillions. That's the 45th most crazy thing in this movie, right? Yes. That scene has billions of property damage. In Man of Steel, there's about 300 billion, and the world harped on it for years. They're still talking about it. In Avengers, when the aliens attack New York, there's $180 billion. Okay, people are still writing articles about that. This movie had trillions, and people